Here is a look at my gap and go trades for the week of November 17th through the 21st. I will go over price targets on the 5-minute time frame, have a gap recap from November 10th through the 14th, and boy, was hit bad, and update the chart as well. Hi everyone, it's Dow on the Dow. Hopefully we'll see some reversals this week, but if you have not looked at your long-term account, you might not want to peek at it this week until things turn around. All right, first up is Rivn. We ended the week at $15.11, down 7.81%. This is where we are. The middle of the trend takes us back to an area I've already marked, and this line was marked back on May 27th of 2025. I've already checked this out, so I didn't want to spend time doing that. But basically, we are back to this area. I will delete that and just start a new line. Change that into purple. And there we go. This is going to be one level of resistance. And hopefully if we go up, we'll just grind sideways for a little bit and then make another leg up. But right now on the 5, we are still in a downward channel. Now, 2 standard deviations takes us to $16.13. This is resistance, a potential take profit area, as well as $16.49. And then down the road, $16.86. I don't know if we're going to get there. On Monday, there has to be some sort of a huge event or an announcement that would take us to this level, and that could be a wick. And then if that happens, it will get sold off because people will take their profits. They will lock in and they will leave. Now, one level of resistance will also be $16.36. If we hit this line, that will be resistance as well, and at $16.36, but that is the target for this week. So hopefully we will hit it. To the south side, one level of support and a potential buy-in area, as well as a potential stop loss area, 1471, 1435, and 1399. This is also a stop loss area and a potential buy-in area for some people. And this past week taught us a very important lesson, which I talk about all the time and many people do as well, and that is to put in a stop loss if you're trying to buy in and then it bleeds out. You are protecting your capital. Now we have a gap that will take us to 1254. And what happened here? Oh, this gap, looking left, closed. It looks like I have not clean this up. That closed out Wednesday, November the 5th, taking us to $14.58. This was an expected move to the upside. That has been fulfilled and done. Looks good here. And then look, we bounced up, hitting resistance. All these lines turn into resistance on the way up and support on the way down. We fell down, and then look at this. Made it all the way to $18.13. And then what goes up must go down. All right. So watch out for this gap to the downside at 11:30 as well as 12:54, and that one begins at roughly 13:26. Let's go on to the next one. Oh, really quickly. Option R to reset. So if we continue going down by the end of the week, the middle of the trend could take us to 1227. And then the outer band, let's just go at -2, 1157, 1303, 1373. Now let's go to, let me reset this option R. So we're at 1511. This week wasn't so bad, but we had ups and downs, obviously, that you could get out. But the lowest I've tracked or made notes on price alone was at 1298 on October 24th, it looks like. Next one is Nike. So we are here at 67.14, down 2.82%. The median takes us now to 65.26. That's going to be resistance, so we could chop along there. But fortunately, we are going up slightly. 2 standard deviations, 66.80. That's usually all I can hope for. Wherever it is, it's going to stay within -2 or 2 standard deviations, and then TradingView will recalculate the linear regression. But if we wick to the outer band, that will be 67.58, 68.35 to the south side. Support, a stop loss area, 63.70, 62.96, and then beginning this gap at 62.12 to the south side. And by the end of the week, we could, at the middle of the trend, hit somewhere 67.48-ish. Okay, and that will take us back to this old area as well. And we have a gap that will fill at 65.91. This touched to the south side on Friday the 14th, taking us down to 64.39, an expected move. And this will also be an expected move to the downside, 63.23. Eventually, that will take us to 58.38. And what else is happening? Why did I mark out? Oh, that's a gap for oh, that's this gap. All right, so that, let me delete that one. Okay, that took us to here, but I cleaned it up. I forgot to delete that at 62.70-ish. All right, I think that looks good. That's cleaned up a little bit. We've got gaps to the upside, but we're not in the channel, not in the zone, not even close. But this one is our next target, and that will be roughly 63.73. Just checking things out here. The next one is NEO. Only one ticker was up slightly, and that's the last one I'm going to go over. All right, 616 is where we ended. Resistance, a potential take profit area, 625. If we should be so lucky to get to 633, that's resistance, take profit, sell limit. That's what I do when I'm trying to figure out where to go just to lock in some gains. 640 to the south side, very close to this line. Let's just mark it. And that's support. When did I mark out this bottom one? That one I marked out on September 12th. So we're retracing back to September levels. Let's delete that. All right, support 593, 588, and then we begin a gap down here at -4 standard deviations, 577. This is also a potential buy-in area as well as potential stop loss area. It depends on what side of the line you bought and if you're trying to dollar cost average for some more higher or possibly start a new position. But I like to look at the gap to the downside and then start a position. So 555, but then it might not get there or take a very long time to do so. Look at this. This is support and a buy-in. We've got a potential gap to the upside taking us to 661. This one is no longer in play. This actually touched on Thursday, and that took us down to 622 in an expected move. It began, it looks like, on Friday into Monday when I marked it out, Friday the 12th. So finally retraced. So September, October to November, 2 months to give it all back. All right, 622 is done. I will delete. Started at 646, delete. And what happened here? Oh, that's because I extended it and then cleaned it up and forgot to delete that. All right, we have some gaps to the upside to fill, but this needs to be, so we gap down, so that will correct going up. So 713, let me just extend that. And this, hard to see. Wait a minute. So we gap down, so that means we'll fill to the upside. So we have some potential gaps to look forward to, but right now also in a downward channel on the 5. And the middle of the trend could take us to 531. Next one, Boeing, down 0.03%. All right, the middle of the trend and resistance where we could chop along, 194.74, 196. Don't hold your breath for 196.67, that's down the road, and also down the road 197.28. But should we wick there because of some news, the wick will get sold off. And then we'll retrace and get back up to that level. But slightly, we're going down on the 5 still. One level of support, many levels of support and resistance in between here. 193.49, 192.85, and 192.18. Look at that, a buy-in, boom, bloop, all the way up to resistance for another sell-off. And then down here, support as well. And 196.14 is the target, and we hit that on Wednesday the 12th. So congrats if you went long and got in, got up, and got out. And it looks like, oops, Command Z to undo. So we've got a gap up to 202.24. Not in the channel, not in the zone yet. We've got a gap to the downside, okay? But that 204 is a ways away. All right, the next one I'm going to go for. Now, my chart looks like a hot mess, so keep that in mind, okay? Because I've traded it so many times. So ignore all the lines except for, that's option R, except for the purple lines. All right, let's give you some price targets. We are at 753 to the north side, 769, and then 784 for another level of resistance, and then $8. That's down the road. That is not going to be probably on Monday, but we can keep our fingers crossed. Now, look at this. We've started to go, well, we're in a downward channel. And then the other marks that the other lines in purple, we're just bleeding out. This is the next target. This is support. I'll expect a bounce off of that, but if we continue to bleed out, that will take us to 706, 691, and 675. Now, Tom Lee thinks that we are headed up by the end of the year on Tsly, and this moves with Tsly, okay? This is an income option strategy. It doesn't give us price targets because it's an ETF, but I have received many dividends from this ticker. And I think the next one is the 27th, the payout. I read one website that said it's a weekly payout. I'm like, I don't remember getting weekly dividends. And then I don't think that was wrong. So the next one I read was on the 27th. So we'll see about that. But that is it for Tsly. Now, by the end of the week, if we continue to go down, if the bleeding continues, we could go to 624. The outer bands, 593, and then up here, 686. All right, that is a look at your gap and go trades for the week of November 17th through the 21st. If there is a ticker that you would like me to go over, please let me know, and have a great trading week.